タラッシーさん、When did you first start planning to make the Demon King video?
Years ago.
3 weeks later.
Firstly, the next video should be on something more enjoyable.
タラッシーさん、When were you start working on the Labyrinth video? It's almost Hawaii.
Nightmare creatures.
Many months later.
The next video is set in stone, for sure this time, and we will see if it was indeed worth the delay.
タラッシーさん、When were the Labyrinth video be?You keep pushing it back and it's almost New Year's Eve. Are you done is grind out blood hunt and watch every episode of Colombo?
Years.
How many years?
11 years, 2 months, 26 days, 9 hours, 3 minutes, 27.4 seconds.
1 eternity later.
The next video should be on something more enjoyable, thematically appropriate for the spooky month, and an indie game at that. Should be a refreshing break from all the slop and jank.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time card.
Kept you waiting, huh?
We are finally here, Labyrinth of the Demon King. The video promised you all 1,000 hours ago.
2,000 hours.
Give or take. And if you think you've been waiting for a long time, I've been waiting even longer. I originally was going to review this game on the channel back when it first came out in May, which would have made it my first edited video. However, there were things I needed to deal with in real life, which made that plan fall by the wayside, but I still wanted to eventually cover it. And after multiple delays, today, whatever day it is the day. Labyrinth of the Demon King, or Low T Dick, we'll just call it Labyrinth or Demon King, is a quote-unquote challenging first-person dungeon crawler that was made in hopefully this year, 2025, in May by J.R. Hoodafall, or Hoodpole, and published by Top Hat Studios, which appears to be a departure from the latter's catalog of games in the 2D platformer and anime lobotomy genres. It's one of those retro aesthetic games meant to appeal to people from a better, more simpler time in light of what people call current circumstances, and also the man-children who think emulating graphical limitations and technical shortcomings makes a game good. Demon King is clearly trying to capture the essence of older horror games like Kuon, Silent Hill, and Resident Evil, as well as the obvious major influences of Kingsfield and Shadow Tower, which I have not played yet. As a result, I can only really call it Condemned Criminal Origins, where you fight the Japanese version of demonic crackheads and other organisms found in the concrete jungle. Now, since I pushed this video back so much already, I am just going to get into talking about the game, but before I do, a few important points to lay out. Firstly, I beat this game twice and got into the second New Game Plus cycle for this review, which means that it will spoil several aspects of New Game Plus that were added in the recent update. However, there are things I did not fully engage with or test out, and I will explain more when we come to the relevant sections. There also may be content that exists beyond this point that I am not aware of, so expect this video to be comprehensive but not 100% over-encompassing. Thirdly,
wait. Number 2.
Chris.
Number 3.
They said it would take... No, you're number 2.
No.
I understand that covering this game is a bit different than covering a 20-year-old game or a piece of shit game that nobody has heard of and nobody cares about, since this is an indie game released this year where the developer has recently added content that has been nominated for various Game of the Year awards. And I understand that there is a not at all insignificant chance the dev or people who are really into the game will see this video and probably, most likely, be extremely confused or upset as a result. I am fully aware that these videos are not for everyone, or Gen Pop as they call it, so I am going to preface the video with this. This is the first game I'm reviewing that I actually paid money for. See prior videos for context and explanation, and is so far the game I had the most fun playing that I have reviewed on this channel, or Chene as I learned from the French in the last video. That is not going to stop me from talking shit, as there are some major and minor issues that should be addressed so the dev can learn from them, and so that people that want to buy a game can be properly informed. With that all out of the way, let's figure out how demonly this King's Labyrinth is.
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory.
We begin with ominous music. Sure would suck if this video was made after Halloween, after Thanksgiving, after Christmas. The options are pretty basic. The menu is nice and builds tension. It's a good first impression. We then begin, again, by being awakened in a training dojo / CIA black site by our handler, a ninja cat that is probably a Nekomata and most definitely is involved in organized crime.
I like you, and I want you.
Now we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Your first interaction with him is him Dark Souls laughing and saying he was going to harvest you for meat, very CIA-like behavior. He then mentions you are clearly concussed and that the best treatment for this is sake alcohol, or that you can just fuck off if you don't want to play the tutorial.
The choice is yours.
The option is nice since the game has a training room in the menu you can access already. If you choose not to immediately jump into your designated operation of plausible deniability, your handler gives you a training exercise against a dangerous terrorist he is in prison, or at least that's what it says on the paperwork. Quick side tangent, all the NPCs in this game sound like this.
What?
Which keeps reminding me of Vintage Story NPCs, which sound like this.
What did you say, nigga?
You are then taught the arts of war, as best as one would expect from the teacher you have to work with. Essentially, hitting enemies does damage to them.
Oh my god!
But sometimes enemies will guard or even parry your attacks, which is why you need to use heavy attacks or kicks on them, which ignore their defenses and in the kicks case knocks them back. However, enemies can also do this to you, which is why you have to parry attacks before they land or dodge in the case of those unblockable attacks. All of this uses stamina and regens really fucking slowly, and is recovered by waiting or using items like mushroom powder, except for kicks, parries, and the dodge, the latter of which costs nothing unless you spam it or use it before this cooldown runs out. That's right, it's a fucking Souls-like, again, where the stamina bar is just for the player and not any of the enemies you fight. Fortunately, most enemies suffer from severe nerve and motor damage due to their crippling addictions to sake, crack, and crocodile, and move slowly enough that simply moonwalking away is a viable strategy. The combat is fairly simple, even with melee weapons having combos you can do that sometimes inflict status effects. Honestly, I barely notice the majority of these status effects unless they happen to me. To swap your weapons, you have to go into the menu and switch between them, which will become very tedious when you have a lot of weapons, but still has a nice look to it. When we leave our conditioning room, we begin again, and we're introduced to hearing damage and the basic premise of this game. It is medieval Japan, most likely Heian or Kamakura period, and like most depictions of medieval Japan, it is currently a war-torn shithole going through Book of Revelations tier events with demons roaming the earth and death everywhere. You are a humble foot soldier, codename Ashigaru, or Asian soldier here in Great Adventurous Revenge Undertaking. Wait, Undying Revenge Undertaking. Wait, no, we're gonna just call him Ash. You are a member of the Takeda clan under Takeda Nobumitsu, who was led into an ambush by a powerful demon where
Everyone died. The end.
We came, we saw, he died.
except for you, because your lord, for some reason, sacrificed himself to save you. You decide you were going to revenge your lord by venturing to the demon's realm to avengicide him. At least that's what the brochure pamphlet says. To show you what the general idea of the story is, I'm going to put one picture on the screen here. If you don't know, you don't know. And if you do know, you know exactly where the story's going and what it's about. When you gain control, you are in a small campsite that was here when you got here, with nothing on you but your broken sword. The area is very foggy, as are most locations in this game. It is very clearly trying to emulate that Silent Hill 1 and 2 vibe with it, and it does a decent job, as most of the game's environments and enemies do look pretty nice. The music is also very good at setting the mood, and is very nice for most of the game, clearly inspired by Silent Hill as well, with its jump between slower tracks and more industrial music. We walk down a cave to encounter a ceiling demon eating some fresh ribs before he fucks off without offering us any, leaving a torch behind for you to use. Despite the fact that his entire army was destroyed by demons, Ash seemingly has never seen a demon before. It is pretty scary the first time you go through it, because this section presents two red herrings to you. First off, you're never seeing that guy again, at least not in gameplay. The section sounds like you're gonna get jumped eventually, but it's just a well done fake out. Secondly, that torch implies there are areas so dark that you will need it, and it takes up a hand slot. But spoiler Spoiler alert, this cave is the darkest area in the game, and you can see just fine without a light source. After climbing a rope through a hole in the ceiling, didn't we do this already? You escape the cave and come to some buildings on some castle grounds. There honestly isn't much to talk about in this area. There's some loot hidden about, which you can find by wandering around, like Mon, which is money, and Shurikodama, which, to put it bluntly, imagine you were playing Skyrim, where there are soul gems. Imagine that everybody has a soul gem, in which their soul is contained. It is precious, it contains your vital essence to live, and it, like you, is unique and special. Now imagine that the soul gem is located deep within your ass, and that there are demons that will steal this gem when you aren't looking, and if it is stolen, you will die.
Fisting! Deepa!
This is real. The name literally means buttocks wee ball, and Kappas steal them because it is their favorite food.
Eating the poo-poo all over the place.
Besides,
cucumbers.
Just don't think about it, or why there are so many of these in random locations, or why they are so large. Moving the fuck away from that, we find a woman by a tree.
Hark! That sounds like a vulnerable teenage girl!
She tells you many people have come here, but most have failed, and that to reach Demon King, you need to beat the 4 wardens in the 4 towers and shoulder their burdens. Also, there's a priest. He doesn't matter, since it'll be forever until we see him. But more importantly, we can save at these shrines and use incense boxes to upgrade our health or stamina by 5 points per upgrade. Beyond that, there really isn't much to do here. You find a rusty sword that is marginally better than your starter broken sword. The game doesn't really tell you specifics about your weapons and only gives you general ballpark signaling as to a particular weapon's speed, damage, or stamina usage, unless you're talking about armor, in which case you get a humongous amount of jack and shit. I don't know how much armor actually does protect you, or what the difference is between them all. There is a difference, but nobody knows what that difference is, and it is so minute that it really doesn't matter even if you being able to upgrade each piece of armor. I am getting distracted, but can you blame me with how long you have to walk to get to the first tower? Hope you didn't miss anything, because there is no shortcut back here. Not that you would need one, unless there is some super secret bullshit that requires clairvoyance to unto it. Not saying this game would do something like that, but Dark Souls would. Oh yeah, the game has the Resident Evil doors. You can skip past these, as it's not like the game actually needs this much time to load in the next area, but I don't realize that for a while. This is the tower repetition. This is the tower repetition. The first tower we must dominate. Obstacle being, we have a puzzle door to unlock. You need 4 gems in the right positions to open it, but you gotta find the gems first. First of these is right next to this door, being used as a blunt weapon to brain this guy.
They must taken off the street.
These are the enemies you'll be dealing with for most of the early game. The Demon King's foot soldiers, your basic crackheads fighting with random trash they found on the floor. The weaker ones have clubs and sticks, while the alpha crackheads, the heavy elite, fight with moldy washboards, which are fatally dangerous. As is historically the case, the yellows and the whites don't like each other very much, so they will beat the shit out of each other. In fact, all the monsters fight each other, as is tradition. There is also a map. These are pretty important for getting around, even if they aren't entirely accurate. I then kick a box.
Nigga, did you just break that?
And get introduced to my least favorite enemy and mechanic I very much don't like. These poison grubs that sting you and poison you while being very hard to hit, since you need to stomp them or swing a big weapon to hit them. But the stomp sometimes doesn't hit properly, and we don't have a big weapon yet. I hate them mainly for the fact that they can appear from crates you break, which happens often. On their own, they aren't so bad, and the poison inflict seems to be fairly RNG as to whether you take damage, but it stacks quickly, and at high levels, it's very dangerous. Adventuring deeper into the tower, we find a Betsudan shrine, and a note talking about what will happen if you mess with a shrine. Apparently, in Japanese culture, messing with a shrine causes a Niri Batoke to appear, which, according to scientific research, can be classified as a BBB, or Big Black Buddha.
That's right! All right!
Complete with bulging eyes. I certainly hope that he doesn't show up, since it says he is immune to all damage, thanks to mysterious powers. But there is no way the game would do that, right? It wouldn't just tell me about something and then spawn it, would it? Speaking of infighting, this crackhead lost to a poison grub. Everybody pour out a 40 ounce for Kitchen Crackhead, my homeboy, DeAndre Demetrius Andre III. Unfortunately, I have bad hearing and don't realize someone was locked in the pantry, but in my defense, that guy was meant to be pounding on the door to tell you that, and that grub fucked it all up. By the way, this is one of my main reasons for comparing this game to Condemned.
Surprise! Bang!
They do the exact same ambush, except these guys commit way harder to it even when you can clearly see them. Okay, maybe they both commit too hard. You may notice you can jump in this game, which lets you get into advantageous positions where the AI will cease to function, which is better than them running away into the distance like they would in a Bethesda game. I reach a dead end where this fungus made of slugs needs salt to remove it, but I need to find salt, so I go upstairs, which of course has a level transition. Our handler is up here, currently harvesting the fruits of his labor, so they may recycle them for a use in another low-income neighborhood.
What are you buying?
He tries to play this off by saying he's gonna make sashimi with his haul. He gives some basic advice and mentioning a princess having some of the gems we need, and I check what he has for sale. It is mostly garbage at inflated prices, but I buy the compass since I think it will be important. Spoiler alert, there is one instance where it seems like it will be important, but it won't. I blow the rest of my money on an axe, which is useful now, but I really should have saved it as money is very hard to come by in this game compared to how expensive all the things you really want are. Still being lost, I descend into the basement. This area is key to getting through the door as these pillars correspond to the required placement for the gems, but you may notice these pedestals that can be interacted with. That is something for much, much later. I quickly use my hops to outsmart this 5'11" thug, recognizable by his diminutive stature, sharpened shaving razor, and mugging pitcher for holding his burgled gains. He is one of the more annoying enemies due to his quick and constant slashing, but he did murder all the other enemies in the area I need to go to, which is where I find more talismans, which are magical spell items I don't really use quite yet, and ginseng tea, which acts as an upgrade to traditional Japanese medicine of getting slammed on rice alcohol. I then find a brutal murder scene where a trio of crackheads seem to have all died to yet another poison grub, and a drop-off that takes me to a room full of grubs, and one of the tokens I need. There is a scroll down here talking about one of the 8 hells, likely the creation of several bored monks trying to one-up each other with horrific punishments one could receive in the afterlife. Hell is a pretty big theme for this game. I do wonder why it is brought up so much, as if the game is trying to tell me something. I wander a bit and finally get to that pantry where someone is locked in there, apparently by DB Cooper upstairs, although the way he tells me this is suspect. He claims to be a blacksmith, possible double meaning, but more importantly, I am told that her handler is actually a Mrs. DB Cooper. I assumed it was a child. We confront her about it, to which she is quite honest about wanting to make him into ramen, which she then in turn offers to us along with salt to sweeten the deal. But due to the amazing display of player choice, where I could have made an actually interesting decision that would impact my playthrough by killing the blacksmith and getting food instead, I'm forced to go for a lawful good run. She wants a statue from the butt sedan for it, so we go down and take it. I really hope nothing happens for me doing this. I use the key to free the blacksmith, who is a Kappa. Oh no, that's not good. Well, he says he'll be down at his wife's tea house, and that chick that locked him in here said she runs a tea house. Apparently this happens a lot between them. I get the salt I need, which gets me through this dead end, as well as through these chests, which gives me the parts to eventually make a dowel blade. There's a note that talks about how Clan Takeda fell a year ago, and their castle stands vacant, but the Lord here spends all his time in this chamber with that boy. Oh no, I don't like where this is going. There is a strange feeling in the air. This is the game's Mr. X, or Nemesis. He can appear randomly in any indoor area and by teleporting in, and he has an AoE rod mechanic that will kill you when it reaches 100. I have no footage of this because it never happened. He is very slow, and entering a new area despawns him until he teleports in again. In truth, he is very limp, or the promise of something bad happening without any ability to deliver on it. I don't think he ever hit me once during my playthrough, and is a nuisance at worst. As you can see, his pathfinding is flawless and robust.
The number of mentally retarded is increasing.
When we get to the 3rd floor, we read about something called a Fury, which is normally a small, fast Chinese mountain cat sort of thing, but here looks more like a giant monitor lizard immune to any attacks that aren't blunt. I don't know this till later, but you just stomp on them, that works about as well as any other blunt weapon. Before we actually see any of those Fury, I have to do this puzzle, which is a good puzzle, since it does require me to use more than 5% of my expansive gigabrain to solve, since you need to use the story to turn the correct people in order. I won't spoil what the answer is, but I will highlight the poem referring to the farmer as a big black swine, as you thought that earlier joke was for no reason. It follows with the farmer saying he was completely justified breaking into the old woman's home to rob it, and that the boy was laying with a noble, and according to the noble, who was the son of the Lord hearing this series of events, it doesn't seem like the boy was a willing participant, but the boy's mother was. The boy is also there, blind and mute. And the Lord, very reasonable in his judgment, hangs everybody involved, including the victim. If only the modern court system worked like this. Now, you may think that is extremely inappropriate of me to be making jokes about this right now, but guess what? Once again, the game already beat me to it, which is my first major complaint. You are building a tense, tragic scene where terrible things happen in your horror game. Something creepy is happening that is, to an extent, unsettling. And then, thanks to the power of gaming, the power of Steam, and what I can only assume is an attempt to force a funny, awkward moment to happen where a streamer sees this while playing it on a live stream, you decide to completely ruin the moment in the first playthrough, which is the only playthrough where this would have any impact. With a pop-up notification that deflates all tension.
This stupid fucking bitch!
Don't do that. Imagine if when Miles in Outlast was getting his fingers cut off, an achievement popped up saying, something is off here, but I can't put my finger on it. That might ruin the moment, don't you think? No, it's perfectly fine. In fact, throw Seinfeld music in there, because they will love it, because it is just a silly moment. There cannot be any serious moments in our game. Nothing can be serious, as nothing really matters. Back to the scary horror game, we get that gem that the puzzle was for and run into Esbel Petty again, who tells us to check everything, like the paper scroll behind her. She is talking about breakable walls, but realistically, there is only one other wall like this, which we already went through in the basement from the hidden side of it. Following that route gets me this cool hammer I used for a while, but it reminds me of another valid but more minor complaint. Light sources are completely useless in this game. The torch and the lantern don't actually do anything for you and are completely placebo. You would think a two-handed weapon would force you to give up the extra sight range of the torch until you get the lantern, but no, there is no reason to ever use it or buy the lantern, which I did anyways, because this didn't click for me till way later. It would have forced me to be more tactical with what weapon I chose if I had reduced sight range by a light source. Again, don't mind it because it avoids a minor annoyance, but still, what's the point of the items then? We eventually do run into Fury, which the hammer takes care of, find a Japanese loot, and a scroll about the Great Scorching Heat health, only reserved for the worst offenders, like murderers, thieves, adulterers, people that use naughty words, heretics, date rapists, and worst of all, simps.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
After more fighting, we get into a large room. Before entering, I find the second part of the Dowel Blade, which I start using. The game considers putting the square peg in the square hole a noteworthy achievement.
Come on, think.
In the room, we find a woman, the princess of this crack den, nurturing what might be her child and what might be a large sweet potato. I base this on the fact that I own several, who then gets upset at our arrival, either because we didn't bring the child support she's been expecting, or she is eating for two, her and herself, and doesn't want to share. In case I didn't mention this yet, the audio balancing for cutscenes is fucking awful, as they are way louder than anything else by about 10 decibels, so I sincerely hope you didn't leave the audio at its default setting. This boss tests the skills I built up to this point, my ability to use the Dowel Blade efficiently, my ability to use that one talisman I set like 2 hours ago and forgot about, which knocks things back, and most importantly, how this game is meant to be played, slowly walking backwards while spamming kicks and parries until you win. She can't actually hit you with most of her attacks if you just walk backwards, and all but one can be parried. This is the first big showing of the flaws in this combat system, because stamina is very scarce, but kicking and parrying never cost stamina, and kicks are faster than most attacks and do some damage, while parries, leaving you vulnerable, only matters if the enemy can hit you in the first place. Why would I do anything else when I can just interrupt all her attacks by kicking until I have the stamina to attack? Eventually, the princess, who is an Ubume, clearly she, like the father, died during childbirth, falls to us, losing her potato as it is quickly stolen by a member of Clan Fester, who will likely be mugged, robbed, and stabbed, order indeterminate, by another Skaven slave within the next 20 minutes. This gets us a special red wooden coin and the key to the armory, which has a new suit of armor, which can only be judged by physical appearance, as we are dealing with Schrodinger's stat page for any physical defense differences. And the last gem we need, running all the way back to the basement, since I remember the Kodama is there, we try his services. He can repair your broken katana using another katana you have, the outcome of the final product being based on what is used to repair it. Naturally, I wait, since you would assume the rusty katana would be the worst pick, and it is, but all the other choices are pretty much the same in terms of how much you would be getting out of them. We can also trade those soul dumplings to upgrade our gear. It is probably not a good idea to use them this early, but whatever. Unlocking that door at the start opens the path to new areas and a new enemy, a flying glowing skull that causes copyrighted music to play at random intervals. It spits out balls of rot and explodes on death, because why wouldn't it do that? There is also a hidden thing with making a hole in the floor to get a Naginata. Now at this point, the game opens up a bit, as you can either go to the second tower or the third tower and do their respective tasks. The Tower of Lamentation is...
I'm not at the beach, this is a bathtub. What are you doing here? Wait, there's no shark in the bathtub.
The courtyard allows you to visit the tea house through normal means, of course. God damn it. You can make your own tea here. It's a full heal, but you won't be doing this that often. Stop it. This is where all the NPCs you find will end up, trading what meager money and
the person's rectum.
You can scrounge up for a handful of the items and upgrades you want. The handler's prices are outrageous, and you can't buy everything. In some cases, you can't buy anything, although some of the items are just outright not worth buying. 400 mon for a single Shiriko Dama. Yes, that's per item, not for 5 of them. Seems like a developer troll when the incense is 450 mon, and a royal katana is 550. That's more than a lantern, which is 300 mon and does absolutely nothing. Having checked that all out, I venture back and try looking at the third tower, the Tower of Crushing Assembly.
I'm feeling romantical.
I suppose I should get going.
The Tower of Lamentation is a bathhouse where most of the rooms come with pools of shit and these liquors that are incredibly annoying as they spit poison at you, which is undodgeable most of the time since the map is narrow halls and walkways with generally no cover to duck behind. The game calls them akaname, which lick up filth in bathrooms, and that there is no point in fighting them, almost self-aware in a sense. We learn about another hell. I'm not sure how Japanese or Buddhist hell works, since if murderers go to all these hells, is it randomly picked which one they go to, or do they get queued up and loop through them all, or rather, is it specific cases that ends up you being sent to a specific hell? This tower's gimmick is this pump room lowers the sludge levels and color-coded pools which allow you to explore them, but you need to find the valves and only one can be turned on at once. My main problem is that the colors of these valves and some of the spots on the map are too similar, since you got red, brown, yellow, and orange valves, and the red and brown ones both look like they're shades of red. My real main problem is that this isn't a puzzle. This is busy work of going to check pools you drain, hoping to find the next wheel to drain the next pool to ultimately find the valve you need. There is no need to use your brain, just keep going back and forth over and over. And another issue you will definitely notice in this section is the enemies endlessly respawning when you load back into an area. While this does mean the game doesn't get boring from a lack of encounters, it does mean that you get punished way harder if you mess up with these valves, or if you keep doing poorly in fights, since you will be drained of all your limited resources from fighting these over and over. These enemies being very annoying doesn't help that one bit, although there are poison crackheads that also appear and get into fights with them, so half the time they aren't even engaging with you, so none of this even matters. There's another area that isn't mapped filled with these Skaven that all try to shank you unless other enemies show up, which they will always lose against since these guys are immune to blade weapons. There is one of these liquors trying to get into this room, so I know someone important is in there. It's the... Oh, thank you, game.
You're wet.
It's the chick you met on the way in here. She gives us one of the wheels and a recall talisman, which is really nice for saving time by sending you to the tea house, but you only ever get 1 or 2 of them. Oh yeah, the giant centipedes. Pretty much poison grubs with bigger hitboxes.
Bonk!
I do like how heads explode in this game. It's pretty satisfying. I am not going to go frame by frame with this valve shit, since it really is just back and forth wandering, Sonic spinball clip included. I really should start making a backtrack count, but we would be already close to 60 on account of Funko Fusion, and I've already lost track, and the only puzzle is figuring out if I'm colorblind or if these wheels are really just poorly colored. Not that the retro aesthetic helps, which is honestly more of a nostalgia baiting gimmick people use, as it's not like this is rendering the game the same way a PS1 would. The textures aren't warping constantly like they would in a real PS1 game, like the last 2 I played. And you also are probably not playing this on a CRT. I think monitors and TVs becoming more and more high-res have contributed to graphics being prioritized so much, which has had a negative impact overall, which is why you should send these people to the hell of no interval, which is apparently so bad they can't even write down what happens. Another complaint in the list, this game's Mr. X is terrible. I don't know if you knew that already. He only ever is an obstacle in narrow hallways, until you learn that he can be perma-stun locked with kicks because he doesn't actually have stagger immunity and can't ever hit you because your kicks are always faster and you can do them infinitely. This is a universal balancing issue, but it just makes him a joke. Anyhow, once you're done looking for wheels and find the one that drains the Lord's pool, you climb through another damp, tight hole.
Doing your mom! A few inches later.
Doing your mom!
What the fuck is this room even meant to be? That potato that got snatched matured very quickly and is now a giant sad potato.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
just chilling in the I don't want to think about dimension. I have no clue if this is right or not. It probably isn't, but if it isn't, that potato we see is never seen again. It's called a new Peppo, and it honestly could be way worse. His entire moveset is Unleash Brap Cloud, which causes maximum poison stacks and spawn grubs. He then slowly moves towards you and can punch hard if you are close. He is just a creep. Literally, like a creep from Dead Frontier 2, which also shits out clouds of poison gas, radioactive to be more exact, and spawns worm-like creatures and hits hard, except the creep always has lingering clouds around it and sprints. You know, it's interesting how many similarities you see in things the more experience you have with them, and seeing parallels between different games all the time is the end result of that. Then there's this Kanobo. Very useful, but not right now, since the creep rock is immune to blunt damage. I almost beat him with a Dow, but got forced into a level transition, and HP bars do in fact replenish when you do that. He isn't that bad if you can avoid the clouds and the grubs. It seems like you can just keep him stuck in melee and not have to deal with that so much. Killing him sends him to the acne dimension for good this time. Having finished my business in a tower, I used the recall talisman I was given, which invokes many themes, such as alien abduction, end-of-life experience, and teleporting via dial-up internet modem. Catching up with that woman, we find that her purpose is to clean, and nothing else. All she does is clean one of the two muddy weapons you can find, neither of which will be particularly useful. I also repair my broken katana using a better katana I bought, which is marginally more useful. This game does have a decent number of weapons. The issue is that most of them are functionally the same as each other with the same stats and attributes, and any difference between them may as well be the result of the placebo effect. Not to mention that most of them are completely useless in the third tower, the Tower of Crushing Assembly, aka the Bone Zone. It's pretty much a series of jail cell hallways filled with skeletons immune to anything but blood damage that run you down and stab you with spiky two-handed wooden hammers or paint rollers. They're easily the strongest enemy in the game and the most dangerous, as they can't be killed by any other creature without a blunt weapon, and they are faster than your sprint, meaning you'll be stabbed in the back with a hammer if you don't side strafe while running away from them. You are going to be invading endlessly, respawning groups of them to travel between these rooms, including this one, which is a boss arena with a giant enemy. No, we're not doing that again. It's called a Tsuchigumo, and it is a significant leap in difficulty as it attacks fast, does high damage, and shoots out a web that slows you down a ton. He not only isn't the warden of the tower, he isn't even required to complete your objective, which is to ring 4 bells in the right order to summon the real warden, the jailer. That said, this is the first time I died in this game, which, reminder, has been on hard the whole time. Dying makes a chant happen, and you revive at the last shrine you were at. The other areas are sections of the jail that have bells as well, which can only be run with a specific hammer and not the hammer we already have. And this notebook from a monk, it isn't going well for him, but more importantly, you will need the notebook later. Not the actual contents of it, but the location you found it in. If you run past a spider, there are different routes to take. Going down, there is a dark open abyss with an item I can't reach. More specifically, it says there is a dark hole and you can barely see anything, but then immediately afterwards, it says you see something at the bottom but can't reach it. Upstairs, there's about 3 floors to explore. The first of these has a hook we need to get that item and instructions on how to summon the warden. You have to ring the bells in the right order and come here. The floor above that is a bunch of Silent Hill 1 metal doors and an Oniro, I don't know how to say that, Oniro ghost creatures, which the note says you should banish them with magic, and plying my weapons would be useless, but they really don't do much, and that is not how they work. The gangs of rats are more dangerous even if they're infighting. Really, you are here to go through this giant big ass room, clearly from a Silent Hill sequence, to get this hangman, but I am stupid and didn't check his body for rope. I need to progress until way later. The only time I ever got stuck was looking for this rope, and I would say that is about where the enjoyment I had with this game was beginning to fade at a very, very noticeable rate. The top floor is a small room with a locked chest which has the hammer I need, but I need the key, which is below the elevator, which needs the rope that I failed to grab. But on my way down, I noticed that as I enter the room, the spider doesn't aggro to me. Doesn't aggro at all, and I happen to have this bow and these arrows, which I haven't been using at all. And these lightning bolt talismans. Faith builds keep on winning. Naturally, the fight is super easy when you do it like this, and it turns out there was a guy alive in this cocoon the whole time, which is the priest we heard about hours ago, who is fucking terrifying. He can sell talismans to us, but that doesn't matter since I rarely use them and they're all overpriced anyways. I usually have an issue of not using most of the items I am given in a game since I feel like I have to save them up. But some of these talismans are just not useful, same as some of the items. Before I jump to the point where I found out about the rope, there is an area where you can find that Bat Sudan shrine statue from earlier. If you bring it back to the shrine in the first tower, you pretty much just delete Mr. X from the game. You don't have to do it, but it does help a little bit with navigation. Anyways, after getting the rope to get the key to get the hammer, we can now figure out this puzzle, and I say puzzle very loosely. The only real issue is figuring out the second and third bells. You think direction will be important since cardinal directions are mentioned, and so you will have to use a compass, but it isn't. So you will just have to recall which area you found the monk's notebook in to ring that bell and then the other bell. I think when you ring them all, the ritual is complete, but you only know when you walk into the room with the instructions, because the 2 times I did this, I rang the first bell after doing the whole pattern and it worked both times. In any case, the jailer is very easy because his attacks can be dodged by walking left and right, and he summons skeletons that die in 1 hit. Spider was more troublesome than he was. Killing him gets the glass coin we need. Near the 3rd tower was this door I couldn't open since it needed 4 of these, and with all of them it now opens. This is the 4th tower to the... Can you fucking knock it off? The Tower of No Interval, which, let me just play how it starts. The music track here is absolutely insane and gets more and more intense as you go up, and it will restart if you take too long, which it did for me. Now, to be honest, I don't know what this tower's deal was, because to put it bluntly, it broke. I know what is meant to happen since I had to do it in New Game Plus, but pretty much the shrine guy spawns in and you run up this never-ending staircase, but that guy never showed up and I wasn't sure if I was meant to keep going since nothing was happening, and it turns out that you do just go all the way up. I was very confused, and to lay it out, this guy is meant to be fast as fuck and constantly on your heels the whole way up. Because I ran up so quickly before he spawned in, his pathfinding must have broke and he couldn't climb the tower properly, so the sequence doesn't happen the way it's meant to happen, so you have this loud, disorienting music playing while you are running up a replicating staircase and nothing is happening. Very fucking tragic. At the top is a save point, and this note about a hell of repetition. Man, I sure hope we aren't in hell right now, because this sounds like the game I've been playing. Beyond that is the Demon King.
How old do they estimate Mother Mary was when she bore Jesus? 14 or 15 years old? I was with young women of marriageable age. Marriageable age. Marriageable age.
What? Oh, it's you. Oh, I see. I told you that image from earlier would explain everything, but it's not like half of you have even played I Divine Cybermancy, but still. The Demon King is the hardest fight in the game, by a long shot. He is so much faster than anything else you've faced before. He has a ranged attack, he does rot buildup, he spawns floating skulls in, and he does insane combos and damage. It feels like this is going to be a grueling battle, a final send-off for this game to fully test all of your abilities. But then I find out his arena wasn't designed well at all.
One fucking job, but you couldn't fucking do that!
Yeah, he just doesn't move, and his bolts get stuck on the roof, meaning he can be hit safely, mostly, until he dies. This is where I spell out what is happening, since I decided to actually look up what these towers are, as each corresponds with one of the 8 Buddhist hot hells or the 8 Buddhist cold hells. This last tower is for the Hell of No Interval, the deepest hot hell there is. The game notes that it is reserved for those that have committed the 5 crimes, which are considered the gravest sins one can commit in Buddhism. 2 of these crimes are killing your own father and mother. When you first reach the Demon King, he mentions how the other half of your broken blade is still embedded in your master and asks if you wish to cut him down a second time. To access the Demon King, you need to collect 4 burdens from 4 wardens from each of the 4 towers, but we never collected a burden from the 4th one. We didn't need to collect it because we started with it. TLDR, you killed your father, likely in a tragic hunting accident where you mistook him for a Chinaman, possibly a Mongolian, and are currently stuck in hell in your cycles of guilt where you need to go through the same torment over and over again for all eternity. Technically, it isn't eternity. Buddhist hell is not meant to be an indefinite punishment, just punishment for long enough until you figure out what you did wrong. Give you perspective, Detective, one of the hells describes that the length of time you spend in it is about as long as it takes to empty a barrel of sesame seeds by removing a single sesame seed every 100 years. So, while it may not be indefinite, it may as well be indefinite, as you will be in hell for longer than the universe has existed. I'm not going to go over the specifics for what exactly is going on, since again, not a lore channel, but that is the gist of it. If someone else came to this conclusion already, good for them. I don't watch other people's videos on games I'm reviewing, and the videos for this game are particularly unappealing based on their thumbnails. To put it bluntly, this game is overly hyped, and it is a bit hard to tell how much of the positive reception is based on the game's own merits, and how much is based on all the videos sucking it off made by channels that generally produce slop and have terrible tastes. I mean, it seems like it did well, but the peak player count was under 500, and it hasn't broken 100 since June, even with the new update. But all these videos on the game have hundreds of thousands of views, but I assume most people are just watching a guy play through it rather than buying it for themselves. Anyways, before I get completely off topic, this boss is super easy to cheese, and when he dies, his head falls off, and then...
Oh! Now you fucked up!
We awaken a cavern by a river, some torches, and a light at the end of the tunnel. There are pieces and parts from the areas we've been in, a cool mask, and then the screen goes completely blindingly white, and then a view of the trees outdoors in real life. So peaceful. Look at the trees. So peaceful. All the trees. Then the credits roll. So nice. Look at all the trees. Very peaceful.
That's it?
Yep, it's over. That was it. This game is very short, and it just sort of ends. You would think that the fourth tower would be like the other towers, or that maybe there would be another tower after that. But nope, that's pretty much all there is in this game, besides New Game Plus content, of course. Now, I know some people take their time with this game. I saw someone say it took them 10 hours to beat a run of this game, but I think that is wrong. And furthermore, I think the pace is kind of butchered as well. Here's why. I beat this game twice, and beat the new boss you get to in New Game Plus in about 9 hours total on hard difficulty, and that is including time I was paused or away from the game. The first tower on the first run took just under 3 hours to do. The last 3 towers in the first run also took under 3 hours to do, including getting through the intro of New Game Plus. Doing all the towers in New Game Plus, as well as the new boss in New Game Plus also took under 3 hours to do. The game is honestly not that hard. The combat is very easy to grasp, but is constantly at odds with itself. Resources don't respawn, and only very rarely ever drop from enemies, but all enemies respawn every time you enter an area, so eventually you just start running past everything since their AI sucks and they get stuck on the environment, assuming they have the speed to keep up with you at all. Because if you fight them, you'll just get hit and have to eventually heal when your supplies are limited and should be safe for encounters with bosses, which creates a self-sabotaging situation of dominant strategy by ignoring the fighting part of the fighting game and just speed running through it. But what about New Game Plus? The whole reason we're here is because they added a content update for it. Does that make the game better? Are the new features that substantial, since it says it adds new weapons, enemies, upgraded enemies, and a new mechanic, and new boss? Well, when you start New Game Plus, you keep all your weapons and armor. I think some of your talismans and consumables as well, and your compass. Nothing really changes from the first run until you meet the woman again, who says you returned and guesses that you are stuck in a time loop. That's putting it lightly, but the first tower tosses a curveball at me. The gem puzzle door is already open, but now there is this skeleton with a spear at the entrance. It made me think that enemies from later areas now appeared in other places, but nope, it's just this one right here at the entrance that is new.
Fantastic!
That said, there's a reason to retrace your steps from the first run, as in place of special gems, there are now pieces of a mysterious weapon that can be found, and I highly suggest that you find them if you play this yourself. One change that I'm completely dumbfounded on, however, is this. The Batstand Shrine is completely fine, but since the path is already open to the tea house, that means you don't ever get to fuck it up again, meaning Triple B is absent from here on out. Why? Why not give him new abilities and put the statue somewhere new this time? Since I have all this gear and I'm much more capable, going through the tower is a breeze, as I am Hotline Miamiing the shit out of it, and really nothing new pops up until I go into the basement and find this guy keeled over. Talking to him gives me a bounty of, where is he getting these from? This is the new enemy added in New Game Plus, and yes, I say singular, as there are no other new enemies despite what the update description claims. All the other enemies are just new variants. I think that this is either the tea house owner or another Nekomata that is far more aggressive and goes around fighting people for gear. They always drop a good number of upgrade materials, but overall, they aren't anything that matters, since these things drop in stacks now, and half the time they show up they're already dead by the time I get to them. Even finding them is very easy, as they are super basic and have very simple multiple attacks. What is a pleasant change is the first boss, because she never got her potato baby back, so she is absolutely pissed off and has a new moveset and new music, I think. She is definitely more aggressive and dangerous in this fight, but the issue is I am so adept at the combat that I can get into a flow where she can't do anything by endlessly parrying and countering. Not to mention, walking backwards works, and walking to her left side, you're right, usually can avoid her attacks anyways because of the lack of tracking. Oh, and I never mentioned this, but I put most of my upgrades in the stamina, and not only does your stamina go up, but your stamina regen also goes up since it scales. So I regain stamina super quick at this point, and you only ever need 1 point of stamina to do any attack or dodge normally. So the regen is a non-issue and makes all the stamina items obsolete. Anyways, she falls and we get all the pieces we needed for the sword, but I also decided to check where I found that Naginata and found this trident idol. This is part of a puzzle that can't be done yet, since you need to complete the entire run to have all the parts you need, but they are related to the basement and its pillars. When you get back to the tea house, the shop doesn't have anything new, but the Kappa blacksmith does, saying he has new gear that he can trade for butt stuff. Also, apparently his sister is visiting, and you should be careful about that, so I guess that was actually a Kappa the whole time. That at least makes a bit more sense, but that doesn't tell me where these are coming from. He also puts together those pieces, which gives you hands down the best weapon in the game, and the only weapon you should ever need, besides a blunt weapon for the skeletons, the Blue Moon Katana. It looks familiar, it says, yet another Moonlight Greatsword reference, because remember, Souls-like. To be fair, this might be better than the Greatsword, wherever that is.
You were at my side, all along.
I accidentally dropped the original in a batch of hydrochloric acid.
It even comes in a +5 upgraded form. I don't actually know how much upgrading weapon improves it by, and even with the upgrade cap being lifted from 5 to 10, I wouldn't know how much this actually does, but I'm pretty sure it makes it stronger. The cost really isn't an issue at this point, since crafting materials have a guaranteed source of drop in greater quantities, but the item shop, on the other hand, isn't worth it. This is the new mechanic, trading these materials for weapons or incense, like that wooden hammer the skeletons have, some new brawling weapons, and a hammer and a knife. Problem is, these are useless because I now have the best weapon in the game, which costs nothing, and I could instead spend upgrade materials on making it even better. Oh yeah, and I buy a gun
Like the founding fathers intended.
that the merchant had the whole time. It is absolutely worth it. So why is the Moon Katana the best? Well, it can quickly kill any enemy, it's fast, and most importantly, it gives health back on hit, which no other weapon or ability does. Why would I use anything else? The only issue with it is the third tower, because it does nothing to skeletons, and switching weapons is a pain with this many weapons, which is my fault since I could just dump them all in storage. But ultimately, what even is the point of all these weapons when this is just outright the best? The second tower is mostly the same. The spitter enemies and the crackheads have a new variant that causes rot instead of poison, which makes them less annoying since I've never been killed by that status effect. There really is nothing new except for this, oh shit, take these cloves, huh? Oh shit. The note is, well, this fucking sucks. If you couldn't tell, this is a Yakuza reference, and this is canon. Kiryu died in Yakuza and was replaced by a body-snatching hack who can't voice act for shit.
You guys worry about the front line. I'll protect the back even if it costs me my life.
You retarded or just deaf?
Not sure why they replaced Kiryu with one of the few people I've ever seen drink Soylent, but now you know what happened. Although the way the letter is worded, you may think it came from this guy, rather than Kiryu.
Actually, he looks forward to drinking Soylent every day.
His clothes are cool, and he also has this brawling weapon you can use. You better appreciate this, because this is the only footage of it you are getting.
Nigga, did I just catch you wanting to be shit?
Nothing new happens in this tower. The boss is the same, but the gun takes over half of his health, and he's pretty much not important. The last area you can access with the wheels has a spear idol, and with that I go to the third tower, which blows now. I think more enemies spawn in New Game Plus. They have armored skeletons now, and bow skeletons, which they always had, but I never mentioned, just like I never mentioned the loud-ass sound skeletons make from being hit. And this is where I died the second time, because turns out the new enemy's hitbox stays even when it's dead, and it died in this doorway, so I get stuck and die from the shitloads of skeletons that are in this hallway.
Ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system. Come and see the violence inherent in the system.
The spider boss is way easier with a gun. You already have a hammer, so you just need to go and ring them in order. And then there's another idol in the area where you found the Batsudan shrine. The fact the Onryo don't die and get back up make the Moon Katana even stronger, since they can just be farmed for free health. The Jailer is easy as piss. I don't think I even noticed till just now, but this sword also inflicts elite status effect. And once again, we are ready to face the Demon King. I already told you about this guy. don't even try to fight him since his attacks are unblockable. He is fast as shit and he is immortal. We get to the Demon King. Again, you already know how this goes. Now, turns out the last idol is right to your left in this cavern, where it can be easily missed if you don't turn around at all. The ending is still the same as last one. New Game Plus Plus. Full disclosure, I was pretty much burnt out halfway through New Game Plus, so I am running on fumes at this point, but I'm still going because I want to find out what the basement secret is. That woman is gone from the tree. Most places that had key or important items are empty, and the puzzle for these idols is the same as the one for the gems. They open up this wall, which has a hatch that takes you to this armory looking place, and beyond that to a cave full of swampy water. And to the new boss added in, the Nura-Ona, not as tasteful as the ones I'm familiar with. This boss sucks big time. He blocks attacks, he hits fast and poisons, he does a roar that staggers you and spawns seemingly infinite hordes of centipedes and is fast as shit. It seems like an extremely hard fight to act as your ultimate challenge for the game, and in a way, it is. What has the game been telling us throughout? That we need to be careful of our stamina, that we need to use our combos and moves effectively, that we need to master enemy attack patterns to beat them in the art of war. No, it's been teaching us something even more important, that the enemy is chronically retarded and can't pathfind for shit, and so it should be exploited. Also, I didn't edit the sound at all. The song just ends and doesn't restart, so it's completely quiet while I do this. This is strangely fitting for the game. It started off strong at the top of the hill, and by the time it reaches the finish line, it's on fire and missing half the parts it started with. I think at this point, I decided I am done with this game. I don't know if anything else new was added, but I tapped out after this fight. But just so you know, beating this boss does give you some cool golden armor and a 4-barrel gun. Fortunately, there's a strong new game boss that this would work on. I can't wait for New Game Plus 3. It tastes even better the 4th time. Conclusion. Maybe the real Labyrinth was the friends we made along the way, and maybe the real Demon King is humanity. Dude, that's so deep.
I am very smart.
All things considered, I had fun with this game.
Nigga, did I just catch you having fun?
In the first playthrough, to a point, and then after that, the game started becoming more and more of a drag, where the new content added is mostly made obsolete by a single weapon and is incapable of fixing the issues in the core combat and game design, or it is just flat out pointless. I think that this is pretty good for a guy's first game, all things considered, but do I recommend the game? Is it worth getting? Am I going to recommend you buy this at full price like some half-wit mouth breather that didn't even get paid to be a shill? Well, let's break it down. This game normally is $20 at full price, which if you have a good memory and have watched prior videos, specifically the first video only 500 of you ever watched, you will remember that I advocated for Nioh 2 and Dark Souls 2 keys for around the same price. In relation to a $30 DLC, that's probably about the same length as this game, realistically. Since those games are way longer than Demon King, let me compare it to other indies I have played at about the same price. At one end of the spectrum, but with a similarly consistent gameplay loop throughout, you have Carrion, which is the same price but only 2 hours of content with no real replayability in spite of the cool premise. On the other end, you have Quasimorph, which I have put almost 40 hours into and have yet to see mid-game. There is also Vintage Story, which I mentioned earlier, which is hardcore realism Minecraft with Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead paced progression, but even slower in some cases. This game is in Carrion territory in terms of hours you can get out of it, but obviously better due to its greater variety and New Game Plus content. The cheapest it has ever gone on sale for is $15 on Steam during sales, and also $16 on GOG sales, and while I wouldn't really endorse a key for a game like this, I will just say for the record that they are all more expensive than the store price pretty much all the time. To get to the point, do I recommend this game at $20? Personally, no. It's just too short and really not that challenging, even on hard, to me at least. I don't think I got as much value for $20 as I could have. At $15? Probably yes. If you like dungeon crawler games, Kingsfield, or retro aesthetic games, and that's your thing, then you will definitely like this. But beyond that, or a more substantial sale, I don't think I could really recommend it to most people, sadly. I don't think it's a bad game at all. I think it's a decent game, but it really is just too short for what you pay for. You have to compare it to what you could have spent $20 on, and money is precious in these trying times, as the value of it rapidly depreciates due to inflation and us constantly being in or on the verge of a depression or recession. Your money should be considered valuable. The time you spent to make your money should be considered invaluable, as you never get that back. And so you want to make sure that time converted into money converts into something that has a good payoff. Anyways, for the final score, I think I got it here somewhere.
Fucking things.
Oh, look, he did it again.
I guess you just can't help yourself.
Hey, me and Post here. Apparently this game was nominated for some horror awards thing. Apparently South of Midnight is a horror game.
Is there a gas leak in here?
Understandable. I know nothing about this, and the results are meant to be revealed after I record the script. So if they win or lose, I'm gonna put a little thing here showing if they won or not.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Yippee!
You know, I don't know who any of these people are who are gonna be presenting it or, you know, judging for it, but, you know, maybe it's... As always, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate and I'm glad that some people out there think all this is at least somewhat worthwhile. I'm thankful for all the feedback and the comments I get. I do try to read all of them and I do encourage them. Any and all questions are welcome as well. The next video, assuming the video on Woke doesn't get priority for me first, is going to be another retro game review for a game I loved as a child. On the shorter side, hopefully. Following that will be another 2-game review, this time for indie games you may recognize from the October poll. To give my thoughts now, it's going to be pretty bad, which is why there will be another retro review after that. In any case, more will be coming soon, and if I don't see you in any streams, then I will see you all in that next video. Until then, stay safe, have a great day, and Merry Christmas. I will see you all next year. Have a good one.